Well, looks like we've made it again. Welcome to pretty much what we can declare to be New Year's Eve. But today is actually December 30th of 2022, and I do have a lot to say at this very point. In the same way that I was able to create a summary video detailing all the things about 2021, I feel like it's about time we did the same. And don't get me wrong, 2021 was horrendous, atrocious, and just a perfect example of a bad year. And I've been through a lot of bad years in my whole life. Probably too many to count, but that one was not like any of them. It was gone way beyond anything we'd ever seen. But now, it's 2022. And as we're prepared to close another chapter in the book of our lives, I have plenty to summarize here. Plenty of things that have happened since January 1st. From the very beginning, I've talked about a lot of things in regards to how good the year had gone firsthand. In just a few weeks alone, 2022 managed to be a huge improvement. Because several things that happened in 2021 were definitely not present in any point in January 2022. Although, the following month, what did you think would happen? One of what we can basically begin to describe as some of the cons about this year. The Ukraine war that took place in February 2022. And it's still carrying on far to this very day. It's hard to tell exactly when the ending is going to be taking place. But as we're prepared to continue our resistance and fight for the many lives that do not deserve to be sacrificed, I myself am more prepared than ever to keep things going as they are. To stand with Ukraine, to stand with a lot of things out there in regards to unnecessary conflict like this. But then, of course, we could dive into a few of the other topics that had taken place. A lot of crap that happened on Twitter, which eventually led to Elon Musk buying the platform. And then, of course, there were the undeniable economic purgings, including massive gas price increases. In June 2022, we ended up facing a complete and total takeover of any and all rights with our bodies. The overturning of Roe v. Wade simply marks the end of an era. Women's rights are completely shoved to the side now, in favor of simply allowing full-on predatorism. It is unbelievable, to say the least. But then we could just get along with other things, including celebrity dads, which, I'll be honest here, 2022 might just be one of the biggest years we've ever faced in regards to celebrities dying. Queen Elizabeth II, Aaron Carter, Anne Heche, Olivia Newton-John, Ivan Reitman. I mean, the list is huge compared to a lot of years that we've had so far that relate to the known annual trend known as celebrity deaths. Probably the biggest was Kevin Conroy. Yeah, without a doubt. So, right off the bat, that's pretty much just a good summary of all the things that were seen as bad throughout the whole year. But I do consider this to be on par with what we had in 2020. If I ever wanted to talk about the things that were bad about that year in particular, this is all I'd need. I mean, if anything, 2020, in regards to the cons, is as simple as this. A pandemic worsened. unnecessary conflict went down. Which of course started because corrupt police officers just had to kill our people for the most minor of things. And then of course, we had the likes of 3 other things. In 2022, I feel like is pretty much identical in terms of the number of things that might have been bad about the year in general. But if I want to talk about all the good things that happened, well, you know what? Just like what I've talked about with 2020, you might want to brace yourself here, because this is in fact the time that I've seen a crap ton of good stuff happen in my life. For the first time in a while, I can honestly put together in words, this was a fantastic year. Quite a lot better than most others. I feel like that it might actually top 2020 in terms of how recent years have taken place. But if anything, it probably would be at a tie with 2018. So if I ever had to put my own top 10 best years of my life into perspective, 2022 might just settle in place somewhere around maybe 5th or 6th place. And 2020 will get moved up a ranking at 7th. Pretty much. And so, to put it all into perspective, that is an indefinite improvement. And I sure can't tell you why that is. From the very beginning, things definitely went down just as you would have expected. We definitely didn't start with our country nearly being completely annihilated by our own people, simply known as an insurrection. And that is a huge difference, just to showcase what has happened in history. Knowing that our people had attacked our country and tried to overthrow so many things we fought for, it's just ridiculous. Completely unexcusable. And cruel. Not just to our nation, but to our people who live there. And so, that is pretty much just a start to what you're going to hear from me. All the other pros I can find about the year, well, apart from some obvious things, I obviously got new attire, and also bought myself another pair of shoes. Yeah, Lems Chiliums, they're known as. Maybe that gives me another idea for unofficial podiatry, but I guess I'll probably wait and see what happens there. But anyways, though, apart from the clothing and whatnot, there happens to be the usual. Nerf, Hot Wheels, camera equipment, PlayStation 4 games, just to sort out the GWK content that I have going. And then, of course, various other things in my life. But it just so happens that there are plenty of other things I've been able to buy that I can pretty much showcase at this very moment. Like these two things. I just so happen to have a $50 vanilla card and a Mineshaft arcade card right here. Still has quite a number of points on there. But I'll get on to the story of Mineshaft for this year, because it seems that every year I happen to go there. But anyways, if I wanted to talk about some of the biggest things I might have done in regards to high-end investments, then well, some of the biggest ones I might have done here will include the likes of a new Acer laptop, about $700 I put together towards that as a somewhat belated birthday present for me. Then we also can't forget a $70 pair of Raycon everyday earbuds. Not to mention iPhone SE 3, which you've seen many times this year. $500 went on to this exact thing. And then, well, these were also about 100 something bucks. But probably the biggest one of all is this. A 2014 Nissan Juke. After several years of saving up a lot of money, I've finally been able to dish out a good amount of it to buying a new car. It may not be new like all those fancy things out there, those Teslas or BMWs, but I guess a Nissan Juke from the mid-2010s pretty much does best for what it is. As an investment, as something I'll probably be keeping for a while, to say the least. I definitely want to get as much use out of it as possible and also have it around for as long as possible until I can potentially build up another cumulative level of savings that'll be good enough to be able to find another vehicle. And also, if I can find a good deal, that I can possibly trade it in. But of course, that story is a whole different can of beans that I've opened up all the way back in June 2022. And speaking of June 2022, my 23rd birthday. I don't know what else to pretty much say, but other than my fan base, my content and whatnot has grown significantly. But I was definitely not expecting my 23rd birthday to be any better than my 22nd. While it certainly didn't pan out well, my 23rd birthday actually did something way better. It started off with 2 road trips. Wisconsin Dells for the first time in 5 years. And then of course, I ended up going to spend a peaceful time out in Gladstone, Michigan. And when it comes to the trips, oh wow. I basically went down to the ECU twice this year, in March and May 2022. So in total, that is basically 4 times I visited the state of Carolina. Visited my brother all those times. And the thing is, it's probably going to continue going. Probably for a while. Who even knows? When he graduates college, I have no idea what he'll be doing. Anyways though, the trips don't basically stop with 2 visits to Carolina in March and May 2022. And then of course there's my 23rd birthday, which resulted in 2 trips happening. But less than a month later, another trip pops up. Another thing that involves a lot of driving. And I was able to take my new car in and get it out there for all the sights. Heading all the way down to a place called Bethesda, Maryland. And the thing is, it didn't just stop there, but it also happened to go on as far as other states like Pennsylvania, Delaware, and even Virginia, the home of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And you know what? I had never once had any time in my whole life put together for Washington, D.C. So this is a monumental success, if you ask me. Being able to go to Washington, D.C. is probably the bare equivalent of being able to go to such huge places in the States like Walt Disney World, any part of Hawaii, or of course, if you really wanted to go down to such prime cities like Seattle, Washington, or Chicago, Illinois, or anything else like that, then the thing is, it really is such a monumental thing that had happened. Especially since Hawaii. And that was basically outside of the mainland of America, but Washington, D.C., getting to see the nation's capital, oh, wow. I don't know what could possibly top that. Although, there are likelihoods that for 2023, I might have similar plans take place involving trips. But then, of course, there were some other trips I basically had. There was a road trip I took to Iowa to visit some relatives, pretty much. The first time in a few years as well. And then there was also a time where I tried to put together some spending time with my brother in Six Flags, Illinois. Unfortunately, that ended up being postponed. So it most likely won't happen until next year, pretty much, somewhere in 2023. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. And not just the trips, not just the things I put my money towards, but this whole year, almost, I've been able to find solace in huge job opportunities. So, of course, there's the story that I've mentioned a few times before where I've uploaded a big resume on Indeed.com, and it just so happened that in February 2022, I ended up getting hired by FedEx to become a part of their handlers program. And ever since then, 10 months later, going on 11 pretty quickly, but it's getting really close to being a full year since I started working with them. And let me just point out that since Marcus Theaters, a job that did not have great pay in it at all, but had some unbelievable rewards. Free meals, free movies, free merchandise, and whatnot. I had access to all that great stuff. But with FedEx, it was a whole different story. A much, much, much higher pay, coupled with several different things. The likelihood to get a good 401k plan. And that seems to be kind of rare nowadays, where people that are under the age of 30 happen to start a 401k plan. But it does seem that soon enough, I actually could qualify for a good deal in terms of 401k based income. But I will be honest, I do not have any kind of plans for retiring whatsoever. I plan on continuing work for as long as possible, until the day that I basically die. Yeah. You might think that it's sad for me to continue putting my body through all sorts of burden, but it's really nothing. If I could lift a 200-pound log splitter with my bare hands and carry it for a long distance and be totally fine with it, then I'm pretty sure I could do anything at this point. I could probably accomplish so much. As a matter of fact, I feel like that FedEx has not only been really treating me well, as opposed to most other jobs, but I feel like I have such a high ranking there by this point that I don't know where to begin. Is this probably the best job I've had so far? Well, yes and no at this point. Considering that I'm practically being forced to do tons of responsibilities just because I rank higher than most, and because I've also been around longer than most other workers have, it's fair to say I might have some pros and cons in that particular place. That might be a whole different topic for a whole new video, but they're one of those that would rather not be talked about by any means, and so I'll probably just leave that as is. Any other way you look at it though, all the pros that I've had for this year, well, let's of course not forget about the other stuff that I've done. Content. There's plenty of things I've done. I managed to bring back films I should have talked about years ago and introduce another tangent of a universe of content that I call Talk About It, known as Films I'm Willing to Talk About Again. A series that entails the films that I have talked about before, but I'm willing to talk about again. And then of course there's the second season of films I should have talked about years ago, which ended not too recently. Then there was I Found It First Season 2, and not to mention another season of Facecam Specials Insurgents. And when it comes to GWK as a whole, there was also Frank West's Undead Track. There was the bring back of 2-hour specials in the form of a small series called Long Haul. But then come many of the other things that I've done as well. So GWK was huge throughout this whole year. Same with pretty much everything else. Honest Jane Nowak was huge this whole year. And then of course there was also a few other things that I had done. But if I ever had to pick one major success that I've done throughout this whole year something that could potentially be as close to meeting my own long-term goals when it comes to putting together my content, then well, I'd have to point out Hot Wheels Hilarity Season 7. Yeah, I basically ended Hot Wheels Hilarity Season 6 on a pretty high note in January 2022. But then, months later, in August 2022, I end up beginning a brand new season. A season that started off rather strong with some pretty big things that I put together, including the first and only time so far that I've ever put a real car into the mix of 1/64 scale die-cast models racing around on plastic tracks. But as the season had continued to grow, the episodes actually were getting a lot of attention. And I don't know about you, but it seems that because of HWH Season 7, I've actually gotten so much attention and so much praise from the community that I can ultimately declare this to be the best thing ever. Better than Nerf Secrets Revealed, better than GWK, better than HJN, better than Why's That, better than anything else I've ever done in general. So whether you put it as something that was a bit of a fluke or something that might have been coincidental and it just matched up with the viewership level of most other channels, it doesn't really matter at this point. I got the viewership. I got the subscriber count. And think about it. I have managed to gain almost 150 subscribers because of the success that Hot Wheels Hilarity Season 7 has brought up. In just a few months, about 150 subscribers have come about. You could just look back, January 1st, 2022, all the way up to today, and just think to yourself, this is one heck of a channel that is growing. And I do feel that all the hard work is truly starting to pay off by this point. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite done yet. So do be prepared, because Season 7 of HWH is still going to be going, especially with another episode that I'll have uploaded today, which will be based off of something brand new, and hopefully you guys will like it. But then as the seasons will come and go, I'm sure hoping that not only that, but also with other content that I've made, it does continue to get better as time goes on. But then, of course, if I ever have to talk about anything else relating to 2022, then well, I might be here for a long, long time. The movies, the TV shows, the music, and then of course there's just a crap ton of things that I've basically done here as well. I've seen a lot of new movies in theaters. There's a lot of brand new songs that I managed to put together, and I've also been able to put actual copyrighted music onto my channel with hardly any kind of consequence. YouTube is literally not even considering taking down my videos as a response to putting up copyrighted material on my channel. For that, I don't even know why. Maybe YouTube is finally letting go of everything relating to copyright infringement, or it could be something else entirely. But hey, this year was huge. For good or bad, ultimately it doesn't matter. Because I've sure made my whole satisfaction, and I've definitely met a lot of good long-term goals in life that I feel like I had never quite accomplished at all throughout last year. 2021 was just so bad that I have a whole nother video for that. And I've sat here in this same exact spot for about 2 hours straight, telling every possible thing about it from the good to the bad. And I've pretty much done the same thing for this year, but there's a huge difference, an enormous gap between the two. One year is atrocious and terrible, and one year was an absolute improvement over the other one. And you know what? I feel like I'm gonna get a similar vibe, knowing that 2023 just might have that same potential. Considering what has already been leaked, not just with pop culture like the movies and video games and whatnot, but also with a ton of other stuff. I've discussed a lot of things that I will be doing in 2023 as well. There could be a lot of trips that'll take place. There could be lots of new content just waiting to be unleashed into the world. New projects, so to speak. But then, of course, the usual, like my content and whatnot, it will still be a thing, no doubt about that. But then, we probably should expect some bad things to happen in 2023, just as we had here in 2022. Or it could be even worse than what has happened this year. But only time will tell. So anyways, sure had a great year. I myself am beyond stoked that we had actually gotten something good for once. If anything, the many things about 2020 that just so happened to be good really overtook all the bad stuff. And 2021 was overwhelmingly bad. Terrible. And here in 2022, the good has far surpassed the bad once again. But this time it actually does so much that it can actually top 2020. And possibly a lot of other years I've had. But as I've said before, anything that's happened pre-2019 was pretty much anything but bad. We only started to talk about years in a pretty bad way, making it an annual trend simply because it's just part of our culture now. It's something that everybody has been doing for a while now. And ever since I basically rose up from the ashes, that was the blackout period that happened between 2013 and 2018, for 4.5 years now, going on 5, I have not only made it my ultimate goal to make this channel and other such things as a huge piece of my life, but I've also made so many other things happen as a result of my work. And if I could do anything that could be even better in 2023, then not only will my long-term goals have been met, but possibly a lot of other stuff could happen as well. I could probably make more friends, unlike what had happened in the past 4 years. I could potentially have alliances met. I could probably score stuff for free. But then again, there have been plenty of people whom have actually sent me stuff for free. Like a Super Pets popcorn bucket. I don't know why they would do that, but you know what? It's just part of the community. The part of the good that I can see in people whom are willing to share their love and interest with me. With many things that I have taken interest in of myself. Games, movies, pop culture of all sorts, cinematography, and a lot of other things. Well, anyways, final comments. This was a definite improvement over 2021 any day. It might even be better than 2020. And with that in mind, I feel like that just concludes this piece. So, goodbye for now. I'll see you with other stuff soon enough. Happy New Year, and do be sure to make your resolutions.